Welcome back to Under Oath. Kids' rights and government intervention and regulation.
Kids' rights.
How much does the government get to screw with our kids?
No, they don't get to screw with anybody.
They do now.
No.
Florida.
No.
Florida, they
Nope.
do. Most states,
Nope.
they do. Do you think you choose your kids' curriculum?
Here's how many rights students have right here. That's how many. They have 0 rights. Your kids have no rights other than to remain alive. You can't kill them. They have that right.
How did you work for the Department of Children and Families, and that's what you got out of it?
I didn't work for the Department
We
of Children.
did. We worked against them all the time. We know the
We
rules.
worked against them, yeah.
Yes, you can't do so many things. Your kids complain about everything now. They call the cops on you. They do these things. You emotionally ruin their life.
Yeah, I'm speaking from a standpoint of what I would like to see. Not the way
did we
it
forget the topic?
actually
Two
is.
lawyers arguing, not
Well, there's a morality
Craig the Hayseed
aspect
from
to
South
it.
Dakota.
Law is supposed to prescribe the morality of the society that it governs.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
Okay.
It's supposed to, though.
Let's talk about certain rights we have. Like, for example, if we want to force our child to take AP courses, advanced placement courses, does that kid have to do it?
As a parent, can I force a kid to take the AP class?
Yes.
Yes. I can force my kid to take an AP class.
What if the
I
class,
think it's
what
in
if the
my
school
kid's
thinks
best
differently?
interest.
What if the school says,
I am supposed to be looking out for my kid. I am supposed to have the best knowledge of my kid and what's best for him.
What if the school says, your child doesn't want to do it, so we don't want him in the class?
That's a good argument for the school to make, but ultimately I should be the one who decides, not the child.
But you don't get to make
If I leave it to my child doesn't want to go to school. So how far back are we going to draw this line?
Well,
my kid doesn't want to get out of bed. He doesn't want to get out of bed. He doesn't want to get on the bus, doesn't want to go to his first period class. So are we going to let the kid decide how much? Do we let the kid decide about what their school curriculum is going to be?
Well, you're going
I
to
think
the distance.
nothing.
We're not talking about truancy. We're talking about what classes that kid gets to take or not take.
Yeah,
class.
I know.
Does he get to
I know
choose
what
his
we're
electives?
talking about. I'm giving you my opinion
I want
on
my kid to play the piccolo. He won't play it. Let's go.
That's between you and your kid, though. The government has no ability to get involved.
So can I tell the school, you are going to teach my kid the piccolo? He's going to be part of the band, whether he likes it or not.
Well, if they offer piccolo classes or what, I don't even know who teaches piccolo, but I suppose they offer piccolo classes, then yes, if I sign my kid up for it, you need to teach him how to play piccolo.
Wait, how do I sign him up? What if the school says he doesn't want to go? We don't want him.
I don't care what he says.
But the school
If
can tell you
I
they're
listen
not
to what
gonna offer
he
it.
says, he'd be eating McDonald's every day and going to bed at 2:00 in the morning.
We're talking about electives.
I don't care what we're talking about.
You think you get
when
to
you say
decide?
elective, that means you're getting outside of what Florida prescribes as the class that must be taken.
English,
that's an elective.
mathematics.
They're not saying, hey, what does this teenage boy who's 15, what does he feel like taking?
I was at a giveaway. We were at a sports thing, and the best sports athlete, academic kid in Orange County had like a 5.5 average, like a 5 something.
Yeah, it's fake.
A 5.
It's fake.
If you get a 4 credit A, I guess he would have to just get
They give
APAs.
you like what's called extra credit for taking an AP class. I don't know why they do
a
that.
full point
Why do they do that?
because they want to show the kid smart.
The kid is smart. He's in AP class. You get a 4.0 in AP class.
Do you know there are scholarships given in Florida specifically to GPAs and SATs?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you said about forcing your kid to take these classes so that their GPA will be high, AP, if you get a B, it's an A, it's a 4. So
just because I want my kid to take the AP class doesn't mean I agree with the way that they weight that score.
I mean, I don't know.
I want my kid to take AP classes, but he doesn't need to have an asterisk next to his GPA where some mathematically impossible GPA is calculated for him. 5.5 is mathematically impossible on a 4.0 scale.
Now, there are some states that they require the curriculum to be posted online so that you know what your kids are learning. Now, recently, this teacher got kicked out of school for teaching something that she wasn't allowed to teach. And she said, I would do it again. Now, as a parent, do you think you have the right to determine certain moral decisions that your kids
Absolutely.
Well, like what?
Absolutely. If I want to raise my kid as a Christian, I get to raise him as a Christian. If I want to raise my kid as a Hindu, I get to raise him as a Hindu. You don't get to say boo about it.
Okay. Well, you have a religious right, but what if, for example, you go, I don't want my kid to learn about the Holocaust. Do you think you got to make that decision? Especially if you go, you don't believe in it.
If I'm keeping him out of a required course, and that's the reason, I get to make, as bad as it is, I shouldn't want to do that, but let's say I did want to do that, okay? Then I should be able to steer my kid's education so that he doesn't have classes that talk about the Holocaust. Now, if I can't do that because Florida has a state requirement that you have to take world history and World War II is taught as part of world history, then there's not anything I can do about it.
What about evolution?
Same thing.
So biology.
Same thing.
It's a BS comment. It opens the door to every racist scumbag in the world to say you don't have to learn about something because you don't believe in it. For example, slavery. You're not going to teach about slavery. You're not going to teach about World War II. You're not going to, you know, I think there's a big difference.
But who gets to decide what the kid learns, the parent or the government?
The school, the government.
The government is what? The government is all of the people together, and they vote from a democratic standpoint, and the collective decide what the curriculum is going to be.
And they have a school board.
Right.
They have people,
so if I
and they've
want
decided what the curriculum is going to be.
And I want to keep my kid out of public school, for
You can do that.
example, I can homeschool them.
Yes.
Yes.
So, but you can't tell a school what they're going to teach, but you can homeschool them.
Correct.
But that's not what you're saying.
But what I'm saying is there's an AP class that teaches a subject that I don't want my kid to learn about. Or there is an AP class that I think my kid really does need to learn about, but he doesn't want to take it. In either of those scenarios, the parent wins.
I don't believe that our system right now allows you to basically decide, let's just say the basics. I'm not talking about when you go into sexuality and stuff like that. I'm talking about basic history, that history should be changed or not changed. And that's where things get tough. I had teachers who were very opinionated in high school, and they said some things that I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. But then again, my daughter comes back and tells me things. And I go, are you crazy? But that's the Kool-Aid she's being, given. So as a parent, I probably need to be highly involved, and I need to see what they're learning, and then I can have my own discussions.
And what do you do if they have a class that denies the Holocaust, for example?
They do.
What do you do?
I tell my daughter that the world we live in is not fair, and that there are going to be moments in life where she will be treated differently, and she needs to learn how to walk it off. She needs to stand up for things when she can and decide which battles she wants to fight. And I think anytime you come from a culture where you are not the majority, it's your job to educate them, not our schools.
And what would you do if, say, a teacher just decides to teach your daughter these things that you don't want her to learn about?
I think I have to make a decision. If it's so important that I need to homeschool her, that's what I should do.
So you agree with me then? Ultimately, it's the parent's responsibility to select what material their child learns.
But I can't tell them what to teach her.
If I want to teach it, I agree with you there.
But here's some of the issues.
You can, in that you can vote for the people who will adopt the curriculum that you want. That's the way that you can tell the state how you want your kid to be taught. If you don't agree with that, then you can pull your kid out and do a homeschool.
Now, what happens with this? Teacher in the middle of class, she brings up, she goes, we're going to do this play it's kind of anti-Semitic, and Julia, I don't want to hear anything about this. If that happens, what is my duty then?
Well, you have to confront the teacher.
You know what? I didn't.
You went about that the exact opposite.
No, I didn't. I have grown up, whether it be the military, in different situations where, Judaism is brought up in a way that, in a negative fashion. And I have to go, okay, what do I want? How do I feel about that? Now, if I don't teach her how to survive it, and I have to go in and defend her every time somebody has an issue or brings up an issue, there's a day I'm not going to be there. There's a day I'm going to be dead someday when my daughter's dealing with somebody who says something or she's watching something on television. And it's my job to prepare her, but not fight her battles for her. So I actually saw it as a good opportunity to let her know. I said, see, you're going to deal with this. When I was in the Army, there were some really bad days because of my religion. And you know what? It taught me something. Hell, we had clients.
Yeah, I remember.
Remember that client walked in? We represented him. He molested some special needs kids when we were when we first started our business, and I had to represent him. And he shows up with his sleeves rolled up, and he has a big swastika on his forearm. I remember. And I still had to represent him. Somebody said to me, how do you do that? And I think the lesson is be better. And because of everything I went through, I didn't throw a hissy fit. I didn't stomp on the ground. I didn't say, I can't do this. I did my job. Did I like the person? No. I mean, hell, didn't we, less than 5 years ago, we took a pro bono case from a guy who was painting swastikas all over town.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And
you got him out of trouble.
He had some issues.
To say the least.
Well, the reason why he was doing it wasn't out of hate. It was out of hate for a specific person who he believed wronged a friend of his. Now, I never would have known that story. And he couldn't believe somebody like me was having that conversation with him. He couldn't believe why I would help him out, especially with, and I had to tell him before I started helping him, listen, I'm Jewish. This is it. And I think it was an absolute solid decision. I can tell you this, nobody I know would have done that. So I do think it's important that our kids have to suffer. They have to learn. They have to learn the good and bad about life.
So is your argument then is let the kid go to school, whatever they teach, they teach.
Let the kid go to school, and it's my job to be aware of it. And if I want to teach them my side of it or what I believe is my side, I do.
It's a little bit off topic, though, because the discussion is, do you sign her up for an AP class that you know is going to be good for her, but that she doesn't want to take?
Kids don't make choices sometimes. They get choices for the little things. The big things, that's my job.
So you agree with me then? I
agree, except my problem is I don't know if the school will follow my recommendations.
That's what everybody doesn't know.
Yeah.
That's the big trust. And at what point does the parent go too far? So I want you home right after school, and this is sort of defeating my earlier argument, but let's go with it. I want you home right after school. We're going to do Taekwondo practice from 4 until 11 o'clock every single day. And from 11 to 12, if you can get your homework done in that time, then you can get it done. But other than that, that's what we're doing. And it's going to be every single day. You can't go out. You can't have friends. Can't go to movies. Can't do any of those things. You're doing Taekwondo practice with me every single day.
And this is a way.
Does the government get to step in on that and say, hey, Dad, whoa, slow down?
No, the government doesn't get to do that. My dad had a bunch of colorful things he used to say. My way or the highway, things like that. I was forced to play sports until I was like, even before high school, because it was important for me to learn how to work with a team, how to be on a team, you could be competitive. I think we lost. A lot of decisions I make were taught to me on a field or taught to me in a drama class or something else. I think our electives made us who we are, even if we didn't exactly like them. I mean, I didn't like the Army. I hated the Army. 95% of the Army sucked. But because of it, I probably wouldn't have opened my own business. We probably wouldn't have represented 55,000 people. We created basically, defenses that never existed, that these people were not thrown out of their houses. I mean, think of how many people we saved. And a lot of that came from doing things that I hated doing. So yeah, I think you can force a kid to do something. I don't think you could force a school.
Well, you definitely can't force school. I mean, they're not going to listen to an individual parents. They're going to listen to, hopefully, they're going to listen to what the community says for them to do. But, even that is a little suspect sometimes.
Now, there are other issues.
When does the government get to interfere? If they don't get to interfere on that, then at what point does a government get to interfere with your right as a dad?
When I'm affecting my child in a physical way. For example, if my kid needs glasses and I refuse to let him wear glasses, not for religious reasons, but because I think
I don't want a four-eyed kid running around my house.
Yeah.
I didn't create some genetically inferior offspring. Don't you dare wear glasses.
Or I don't feed him enough.
Bringing shame to our family by wearing glasses.
Or truancy. Remember the trial I had where the kid missed, I think, like 50% of her classes? That's actually a crime in Florida. You can be tried as a parent if your kid is too truant.
What happens once you get them to school? Then you're fine. You just got to prove that you got them to school. School's responsibility after you get them there.
Yeah. God, that client lost. Did that client do time? I hated that. I hated losing. I only remember my losses. I never remember my wins.
Of course. That's every attorney.
I know. Some attorneys were good at losing.
The wins fade into each other. The losses stand out forever.
And the worst part is they absolutely did it. The worst thing about my losses were it wasn't like I lost good cases. I always lost terrible cases, but I hated losing. I mean, there were those moments. And that's the good thing about you and I. We've been together how many years? 1998?
That's a long time, yeah. So 23, 24, 25?
Yeah. Yeah, we've gone through human beings, we've gone through people, we've gone through children. So we've seen how bad it gets.
Yeah.
And we still don't learn.
No.
We still don't learn. We still make the same mistakes where we believe somebody. And I don't know if that's a mistake. I think we want to believe that people can be better, even though we've seen the worst in people.
So speaking of parents doing crappy things with their kids, kid earns a bunch of money. He's a model, he's an actor, he's a singer. But he's 15, she's 16. And mom and dad take all the money.
It's a Jackie Coogan loss. So law passed in Hollywood, Jackie Coogan, who used to with Charlie Chaplin. And they took all his money, blew it. And what was funny is later on, he became cousin It in the Addams family. But there are laws that require this money be put away. So I think a lot of times they're protected.
Should the parents get any of it?
They can get some of it for management and to take care of basic needs, but a certain amount has to be put away.
What if the parents give up their careers to drive this kid all over the state to do different auditions, give up their careers, money, savings? They buy the studio equipment, they get voice lessons, buy them the guitar, get guitar lessons. What about all of that?
They're still required to put a certain amount away. So, yes, you could be managers, you can have costs, but a certain amount has to be put into a trust later for them. Now, here's the weird question. Those laws protect certain kids, but what if the kid's working at Burger King? He's not an actor. He's not this, a regular job. Or you take money the government gives you.
For the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
and
the rules
spend it
that?
on crack.
I got bad news. There's no direct law that deals with that.
Yeah.
Now, DCF, Department of Children and Families, or whatever exists in your state, can come in and step in and try to do something.
And a lot of times those agencies are so overwhelmed with crises that taking a kid's money is really far down the give a crap list.
We did a lot of that. I mean, I think our first 2-3 years in practice, we did a lot of that government work that dealt with Department of Children and Families. And yeah, there's no way the government can monitor this stuff. And the only time I think they really ever took it serious was when it was serious abuse.
Serious physical abuse.
Yeah. I mean, that was tough. I remember, some of our friends now who we're still friends with were on the other side of that. And, as lawyers, all you do is your best. You don't get to make a moral choice. The only choice you get is to represent this person to the best of your ability. And I think that's the toughest thing with the law. My daughter asked me a question the other day, about representing people who aren't decent people. And I had to give her the bad news. I said, I don't get to choose that. Now, the tough question that people don't realize, if you know your client murdered somebody, do you still have to represent them?
No, of course. You can't let them. You can't let them lie. You can't let them say things that you know to be a lie. But if you just suspect that they're lying, you have an obligation to allow them to say their side of the story, even no matter how weird it sounds. You have to let them say their side of the story. Perfect example, the Jussie Smollett case. God forbid there were some guys wearing some MAGA hats in Chicago that day. Just happened to be coming from the same subway. And you think, oh, man, come on. You guys definitely, you're the only ones there. Of course you're the guys that beat him up. But you don't know that. And they say, no, it wasn't us. We didn't do it. And as it turns out, he's a big liar. So you don't really get to make that call as the attorney. If they say, I'm going to lie and I'm going to say this, well, you can't let them say that.
You remember we were lonely public defenders together. And I remember there were a couple of...
I don't know if you could be lonely together, but I get what you're saying.
We were the Lone Rangers. No, there were some issues we had where you and I disagreed on clients and how to represent them. And I remember that was really my first experience realizing that as an individual, I have to make my choice and that there can be differences of opinion. I mean, we had that big case where everyone said, take the plea. And it was a best interest plea. But I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. And there are times that I think about that later on and go, maybe I should have pled a plea amount. Maybe it was the risks were too big. I don't know if there's ever a decision later on that you can look at and go, was that right or wrong? I think it's just natural to who you are or not.
Well, if you care about your clients, you're always going to feel that way. You're always going to wonder if you did the right thing, especially when there's a big decision to be made. Do you roll the dice and risk going to prison? And if you win, your client goes home and never has to deal with the system again? Or do you take a 6-month probation, withhold adjudication, slap on the wrist kind of plea deal, but you know he didn't do it?
Not easy being a lawyer some days.